Welcome to Foundry Talks. Today we sit down with Jeff and Austin Clegg of the Redfish Lake Lodge to talk about what it really takes to run a legacy property. From building culture to balancing growth and authenticity, this episode is about protecting what matters and creating experiences guests will never forget. Good morning and welcome to Foundry Talks. I'm Rachel Stojanovski, and today we are joined with guests from the Redfish Lake Lodge. So we are here with Jeff Clegg, who is the Resort and Hotel General Manager, and Austin Clegg, who is the Director of Marketing, Employee, and Guest Relations. So welcome. We're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, we are overly excited and really thrilled to be with you today. So thank you for reaching out to us. Fun.
Absolutely. So we'd like to start just getting to know you both a little bit more. If you want to just share a little bit about your personal background and maybe what led each of you to take on the responsibility of running Redfish Lake Lodge.
Yeah, that's great. I'll go first just because I came first, not because I'm most important, but my wife and I came to Redfish Lake Lodge in 1989 on our honeymoon, and little did we know that 10 years later we'd be back managing that beautiful place. And it was interesting because in 1992, my father-in-law saw the resort for sale in the Wall Street Journal. And we had this connection between us because he had grown up in Idaho and had Redfish Lake as one of his favorite places. And of course, my wife and I had gone there on our honeymoon, so we knew we had a joint interest. And he reached out and brought the family up to Redfish and everybody and said, is anybody interested in jumping in on this? And this is back in 1992. It's, it was a little bit different than it is now. You were really going off the grid, and Austin was, born in 1992. Just so he was brand new. And when we went up there, he was in diapers. And, we've got some wonderful pictures of him sitting on the beach on that trip, actually. And so anyway, we were very interested. The rest of the family was not. I was interested. My wife was hesitant for good reasons. And we went on about another 7 or 8 years. And then in 1998, he reached back out. My father-in-law said, it's still available. I'm going to do it. Are you in? And of course, at that time, we were full jump in. And we had 3 children at the time when we first committed. And then we went up there. We had our 4th child 2 weeks before we moved to Redfish, and sold our house and packed it all up and went to Redfish, lived in a trailer for the first couple of months with 4 kids and a small trailer. But it's just the fact I remember on one occasion I had left. I'd come home late at night and then left early in the morning. And when Austin woke up, he turned to my wife and said, did Dad not come home again? And he had no idea I was actually living in that trailer too. So anyway, it's been amazing. Goodness. We've loved it. We've been there now for this will be our 27th year. And we've raised our wonderful family up there, which is the reason why we went there. We just saw this opportunity to raise our kids in a really, really special place and teach them work and getting along and loving people. Anyway, so that's my story. A little bit.
That's amazing. Did you have any hospitality experience prior to jumping in on that project?
No, that's a great question. No. I graduated in marketing, and I'd gone and looked for a couple of opportunities, and none of them felt right. And then this just started. I worked for another company for 7 years, and then turned over to Redfish. But no real hospitality experience at all, other than love of people, which is really what it takes, So,
absolutely. Oh wow, well that's just amazing. Well, Austin, it sounds like you didn't really have a choice. You were just it was going to be your destiny whether you liked it or not.
I was super blessed to be able to grow up with that background. And growing up, I worked at Redfish till I was kind of in my mid to late teens, and then we had a family friend who had a cattle ranch out 20 miles down the road. And so I kind of exited for a little while and got to learn how to work for on a ranch, which was really fun. And then, it's funny how life kind of leads you back to places, I guess. But when I was in college, I I remember taking several business classes, and I just constantly, my head would go, oh, this would be awesome at Redfish, or,
Yeah.
all those things. And I remember one specific conversation I had with a dear friend who I was kind of talking about some of my career choices, and he said, dude, why in the world are you not going back to Redfish? And that kind of hit me. And I actually, at that point, I chose to get my master's in tourism management at Colorado State, and it just kind of all worked out. And
Yeah.
I would just say I'm here because I love Redfish, but also because of Jeff, of my dad. I truly
Yeah.
love him, and it's the greatest honor of my life to be able to work with him. He's the best boss ever, and I see both sides of that. He's the real
Yeah.
package. So, and my mom. So, and now,
Yeah.
I have 4 kids now, and so it's fun to watch that kind of come in the rears as well. They get to have the
Yeah.
same experiences that I did as a kid, and it's really fun. It's really neat to see. So.
Oh, that's just so cool. And what an awesome opportunity for your kids. And I mean, you getting to grow up there. It's so unique. I think that's what a lot of people are chasing and just don't even have that opportunity. So it's really cool. So tell us a little bit more about Redfish Lake Lodge. I mean, Derek and I are obviously familiar with it, but if someone, had never heard of it before, or we're, trying to think of somewhere to go, why would Redfish Lake Lodge be somewhere that they should go?
Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, the
Well,
director of marketing.
yeah. Well, it's a really, the word we always hear a lot is magical. It really is just a magical place. And it's a little bit cliche, but I mean, when you go into Redfish, you truly just don't see places like that in the world very often. It's this, beautiful log resort on the shores of the lake, and the views are stunning. It's all Forest Service land, and so we are the only lodge or structure on the north end on the lake at all.
Wow.
And so it's just really it feels like a step back in time.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about the water. It is the most crystal clear water that you'll see, and it's just a really special place. It's there's so much tradition and adventure there. It just really resonates with a lot of people. So.
Yeah. We saw that there was so many different activities and things that
Mhm.
guests can do. Are there any favorites? I mean, there's horseback riding, hiking, obviously the marina and all of those types of activities. Is there one that really stands out to be a favorite among guests?
Yeah, I think we have a hiker shuttle that takes guests from the lodge over and drops them off on the south end of the lake. And then you're right in the wilderness. It drops you off in the wilderness area. And so it's some of the best backpacking and hiking. And, that shuttle boat ride to the end of the lake is truly just a classic. The view when you get to the end of the lake is called the Gates of Heaven.
Wow.
Everything just opens up that Redfish Canyon, and it's really, once you've seen it once, you never forget it, and it's
Yeah.
just really a beautiful thing. But that, and all those things you mentioned, there's the Salmon River right there, and there's great rafting and fishing opportunities, and all the
Yeah.
hiking and mountain biking, and it really is a outdoor mecca. There's climbing. There's really
Yeah.
nothing you can't do there. So.
Wow. That's amazing.
One of the things I was gonna mention, Rachel, is the multi-generational aspect of
Oh,
redfish. And a lot of times you'll sit there and you see grandma and grandpa, they just want to sit on the front porch, watch the grandkids, read a book, and just maybe eat an ice cream cone or something, and just have that day. But then you've got that
yeah.
beach. And that really, one of the magical features of redfish is that glacier activity caused all the sand to pile up on that north shore. And I'm shocked at how many times people say, "Did you ship this sand in from somewhere? Did this come from California?" Or they really
Yeah.
think that, and it's
Yeah.
just really fine, white, granular, sand that is unusual. And
Amazing.
so, and it goes out for about 200 or 300 feet, quite shallow to the
Wow.
end of our dock. And so kids can play out there safely. Mom and dad can sit on the beach and have a conversation and just keep an eye on the kids. And so it really lends well to just a real strong family experience if you just want to stay at the lodge. And then there's all those other things,
Right.
of course, that Austin just said, if you want to get out and mountain bike or climb or rock climb, hike. I mean, all those things are just literally, half
At your
mile
fingertips.
away.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Mm.
Wow, that's
It's pretty
amazing.
crazy seeing the pictures for those who haven't seen it. I mean, you look on
Yeah.
social media and type in Redfish Lake. I mean, you're like mistaken. You think you're looking at like the Bahamas or something. It just really is that beautiful. It's that clear.
Yeah.
It's amazing looking at the photos of the place. I moved out to Idaho like 8 months ago, and it's been top of my list of places I need to go visit because I just hear nothing but great stuff about it. It looks absolutely stunning.
It's kind
Oh,
of
that's
funny
so cool.
because in the like right now this time of year, one of the things we do in our social media is we have an ice melt off contest. So whoever can
Cool.
guess the day that the ice is going to come off the lake, and people are quite surprised because I mean, I've gotten pretty good at it over the years because there's
Yeah.
some
Sure.
consistency, but we have a really nice giveaway to the people who can guess the exact day. I mean, like right now,
Oh,
there's
how
about
cool.
still 2 feet of ice on that lake. You could
Wow.
probably, drive a car across it if you wanted to. So,
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so
so,
cool.
so it's
One thing
fun
I
to see
wanted
the
to sort
change from that to summertime. It's big dynamic.
yeah.
So,
We're in that transition right now. It's
exactly.
so
Yeah.
interesting. And nature itself, everything's blooming right now. It's a, to your point, Austin, it's that magical time of year to really see everything blooming and just the season transitioning. It's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to circle back on. So, Austin, you shared a little bit about how the lodge is because it operates on the U.S. Forest Service lands, you're the only structure. Has there been any challenges with that, with permitting to do certain things, or have you ever wanted to expand, or would just love to know kind of how that impacts your operations, if it does, or maybe it doesn't. We're curious about that.
Yeah, no, it does impact everything. um, so it's a great blessing because we're able to preserve the area, which is amazing. We're so grateful for that. It also presents some interesting challenges because it's public land, right? And so
Mhm.
if you want to come to Redfish, you can come to Redfish anytime, any day of the week.
Okay.
And so, over the last couple of years, we've had some very high energy days with the pandemic. There was kind of the surge with everyone wanting to get outside and away
Yeah.
from the cities. And so we felt that, and it creates some interesting challenges of, how do we preserve this wonderful place? It's meant to help you kind of escape from the grind of civilization, when there's people here, when there's energy going on. And
Yeah.
we're still very fortunate. I was down at Zion's National Park just over spring break, and we don't even hold a candle to a place like that as far as the word busy goes.
Yeah.
but it has gotten, busier. It has gotten, more energy over the years. And so, from a marketing standpoint, that's kind of an interesting balance. How do we continue to drive revenue and business and things, but also stay true to who we are? And so
Yeah.
it's a fun challenge and opportunity that we're grateful for. But it is, that's one of the blessings of Redfish, is it is on public land, and so it's accessible to all. And so
Yeah.
being able to work kind of through that, and how do we, make it so that it's a good experience for everyone, and we're still good stewards of the land, and the people that visit are good stewards, and all those things. So it's a constant conversation and project and thought process that we're always going through.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine it's kind of this catch 22. You want to, do all of these amazing marketing campaigns and everything, but then also, well, we don't want that many people because we do want to keep the integrity of what you've built. And I mean, it's been there since we talked right before the show, since 1929. So you're approaching almost the 100th anniversary of the property, and that's just amazing. So I can see that being something a little bit challenging, but also full of opportunities to navigate. Um, since your family took over, Jeff, I think you said 27 years now since you began running it. Have you made any major changes to the Redfish Lake Lodge? Have you added anything, or was there something that had been going on for a long time and you decided to switch things up? And we'd love to know if that was received positively or negatively by visitors that had been coming there for a long time.
Yeah, that's a terrific question, Rachel. You know, early on in the very early years, when we acquired Redfish, we had a master plan, and that master plan at the time allowed for 6 new cabins, and that was about it, and maybe a remodel to our general store. And
Okay.
so back in 2001 and 2, we built 6 new cabins, and so we built that out real quickly. We have 4 really large family style cabins because we saw a real demand and need for that.
Yeah.
And then we built a honeymoon cabin, which is one of our most, if not our most popular cabin.
Oh,
And then
that's awesome.
yeah, and then we built another smaller little duplex style cabin that has some ADA compliance, so we could take care of people who had needs. And so we did all that early on, and since then, I mean, we've almost taken every dollar that's come off the place and put it back into, because the
Yeah.
facilities really needed a lot of love. I mean, just the
Yeah.
stuff that you don't see on the surface, the infrastructure. We put in all new
Yeah.
sewer line. We put in almost all the electrical has been updated and brought up to speed.
Yeah.
Just a lot of that infrastructure stuff that, you know, you don't see the bang for the buck, but you can't expect to exist on what it was for all the reasons you can think of.
Yeah.
And so, so we've spent literally millions of dollars on, I think we've updated every single room or cabin there in some way or another. I mean, some in a
Wow.
complete gutting of the interior. We're under some really, fairly stringent historical,
I would
architectural,
imagine.
we have some Forest Service. We can't do much to the exterior of a building, but we can
Yeah.
change the interior. And so almost every building has been, you know, gutted out and redone on the
Yeah.
inside. And we've tried to, maintain the facilities. And so we feel really good about, the way we've maintained the rustic character of the place, yet also done what we can do to improve the quality of the guest experience and make sure the facilities are
Yeah.
clean and safe and, all the things that you just expect, but not
Yeah.
easy to do in a rustic location all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was impressed to see that it looks like there's 5 different food and beverage outlets or offerings that you have throughout the property. And I was surprised that there was that many. Is that something that it looks like maybe some of them have been added in the last few years, but was that something that you saw a need for just with the rise in guests and just being able to serve them better?
Well, we've expanded things a little bit, and we have our full service restaurant, and then we have the Lakeside Grill. The Lakeside Grill, I remember the first season we had one person out there who would ring you up, turn around, flip a burger, and I mean it was kind of that, and
Yeah.
if we had a $600 day, we were stoked, and now I have 12 employees out there, and
Wow.
we didn't expand the size of the building, but we just organized it in such a way that we could, and that's become a very, very popular spot. In fact,
Yeah.
there's many times where, you got to have a social experiment, standing in line for a few minutes waiting to get a burger, but we do the best we can. And the Rustic Lounge is really kind of the little magical spot within Redfish. I mean, it's
Mm,
not your typical bar. I mean, it's
yeah.
rustic, and the character speaks to that name. And anyway, but uh, yeah, I mean, we've tried to expand the food. I mean, the food side of it, everything we do is local. We try to use purveyors who have,
Yeah.
we do everything from scratch in our kitchen. It's a big
So
commitment
cool.
with labor
Yeah.
expense, but we feel like worth it to maintain our, integrity and being authentic, frankly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Well, and I'm sure the guests feel it, and that's what makes it feel such like an authentic experience. They're not
Mhm.
coming to this amazing place and then getting frozen chicken nuggets. It's
Yeah, yeah,
everything really goes hand in
yeah.
hand. So that's really neat. But yeah, I mean, I think what do they say? Food and beverage cost is like if you just expect not to be profitable, it's almost like an amenity you have to offer to guests. So it can be a struggle. But the fact that you maintain that integrity throughout all the different areas is really cool. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Um, so shifting gears a little bit to bookings and kind of some successes in the guest experience, we've noticed, and we talked to you about how quick bookings fill up, so far in advance.
Mhm.
Is that something that you've seen just slowly trend that way, or has that been just in the recent years? We're curious how you've been able to grow that and then also maintain that level of success.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that's definitely grown over the last 27 years. Maybe I'll speak to, we have a group of legacy guests, and those are guests that, are generational families that have been coming to Redfish for some of them longer than we've been there. In fact, a lot of
Wow.
them have longer than we have. And, and so we kind of allow them to pre-book, if you will, before we open up to
Okay.
I guess you could call it the general public for bookings, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of an interesting balance, and we're so grateful for those guests. They're wonderful people. They're dear friends, and they come a lot of them come during that peak time of the year, and so that creates some interesting supply and demand challenges there that we navigate. And my dad kind of spoke to this, but we're not allowed to really expand Redfish, right? We've got all the
Yeah.
cabins and units there, and so we acquired 3 properties in the town of Stanley within the last 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
That are just kind of smaller, really neat properties that have their own little flavor. Some have cabins, some are right on the river, some are right in
Cool.
the middle of downtown Stanley, and so that's allowed us to kind of play a little bit of the supply and demand game. And once we're full of
Yeah.
Redfish, we're able to have those properties. Now, some people, those properties are really neat, and they book themselves. They're really growing
Yeah.
in great spots, and we offer a shuttle from those properties out to Redfish.
Totally.
You can have the whole experience of Redfish, but just come back in the middle, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it is good. And, we're always thinking about how we can balance allowing folks to experience Redfish for the first time, but also staying true to those families that have been coming for a very, very long time. And again, that's kind of an interesting conversation that we
Yeah.
always have, and we're always trying to balance, but very grateful to have that problem. Frankly, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
So, we fill up July and August. We open up for reservations. We generally do it the first business day after Labor Day. So it's the Tuesday in September after Labor Day. And I have the opportunity to help answer phones and kind of make sure that our software and everything's running.
Yeah.
And the love that people have for Redfish in that moment, it's like the Super Bowl. It's just a really kind of a fun day. Everyone are just running to get cabins, and there's a lot of excitement, and there's sometimes disappointment, but it's just amazing, and we're so grateful for all the people that love it here and want to come stay there. So
Yeah. So
Rachel,
oh yes, please.
I just want to make a quick mention about the power of marketing, and what it's done for us, because, up through about 2015, we would book July and August, end of June, just like that. But we always had a lot of openings in our shoulder season still, like early June and, September after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in about 2015, I remember I attended a conference back in Nashville, Tennessee, and we got to know a marketing company back there. And I was hesitant. I was really hesitant because I thought, well, we really don't need this. And we started using this marketing company, and Austin was coming on full board at the time too. So his influence in this was really, really critical. But all of a sudden, in about 2 years, early June and September were filling up almost as fast as July and August. And I saw the power of marketing, of getting our SEO things set right. And I mean, all the stuff that you guys do so well. And, so I'm a huge, I'm a fan of marketing, and it didn't come naturally. I had to kind of see it happen. And, I just think you've got to do that. You've got to keep, and even now, even though we're filled up, there's always ways to make it more of an experience, and take our pontoon boat rentals, and then take our sunset appetizer cruises, and all the auxiliary experience things that can make it even a heightened experience. And so we try to, I've seen this really grown in the last 10 years. We've grown a lot in terms of our business, and that reflects in our revenue. What you said earlier is absolutely true. The the food and beverage side of it is almost a lost lead. You know, you have it, but you know,
You
if we
have to
didn't
have
have,
it.
you have to have it. But if we didn't have in a bar, thank heavens for a bar. But you know, the marina and the general store, and you know, and the lodging, that's where we are able to
Yeah.
continue to operate. You know, so
Yeah, it's funny. Just on we had a call with our other partner, Trey, a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how it's really, sometimes it's hard to shift your mindset when you're in-house and working in the operation. Like, yes, we do need to focus on marketing because you're so focused on the guest experience and the operations and making sure everything goes so smoothly, and you feel so busy, but there's so much of a story to be told. And like you're saying, with sunset cruises and your pontoon boat, and like, do people know about those? Like, marketing is that tool that really gets to share the story and the experiences that you can have, which I think appeal to people in so much more of an emotional way, because then they can imagine being there with their families, or just as you were explaining, like the grandparents sitting on the porch with an ice cream cone and the kids are playing in the beach. Like, that sounds like a dream. And so I think
mhm.
that's really the power of marketing, is just sharing that story in a really
Yeah.
strategic way. So that was a perfect segue, because what I was going to ask next was, with the marketing that you do, is there a channel? I would imagine that email marketing is pretty powerful for you since you have such a loyal following of guests, but has there been a specific marketing channel that you've seen be the most successful? And then on the other hand, is there something that maybe you've tried that hasn't worked out as well as you've hoped?
Yeah, those are great questions. You know, we try and be, I think, more than anything else, just consistent across
Yeah.
platforms. That's kind of our focus, and we've gotten better kind of as we've kind of taken some things more in house. We've gotten a
Yeah.
little bit better and gotten some more key players involved that help with that consistency. But you know, the email marketing is huge, and we do have a great email list that helps people that are followers and keep
Yeah.
coming to Redfish and all those things. But then, you know, in recent years, Instagram has been a big one, obviously, in the
Yeah.
social media scene. Instagram and Facebook, those are big parts of it. And you know, we try and we get a lot of requests for magazines and things like that to run ads and kind of the print stuff still, and we'll do that occasionally. It's hard to track the ROI on those
Yeah.
type of things, and so that's, you always wonder, well, I don't, did that help or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
but we try and be consistent across all platforms, and again, we're always kind of striking the balance of being authentic to who we are and those things and the way we communicate, and showing that we are just a kind of a family run deal here still. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Are there any things that you do on property to help share those experiences with your guests, like any interim collateral or anything that you've done marketing wise for when you're there to expose some of the dining outlets or activities that you have available?
Yeah, when the guests are there, we do have some guest books. We had designed a couple years ago. Those could use a little refresh, honestly. It's always I guess maybe I'll speak to the challenge of, we don't have in our rooms, we're kind of a tech-free space, right? There's no Wi-Fi in any of our cabins or things like
Yeah.
that, and so and no TVs, no phones, and so, which we love, and it's a big part of our character. But
Yeah.
what I love to just have a little QR code that would have all of our resort amenities on it that you could just scan and have, yes, that would be making
Yeah.
things a lot easier. So, but it's fun to be able to have those challenges and reprint those and have those, available.
Yeah.
And we have a few little bulletin boards and things around the resort that we try and advertise, things when we're there. It's something we could frankly, I think, improve on a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we do, I think, go
Austin,
ahead.
you're selling yourself a little bit short. We do have the guest texting, so we can,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
so like when people are on site, we'll
Yeah.
fire out a text and just, whatever, the reminders on the restaurant or the bar or the marina.
Yeah.
I'll give you a really good example of this, because every once in a while we'll have an astronomer come up who will do star
Oh,
floats
cool.
out on the
Oh,
lake. So
wow.
we get all the pontoon boats, and we have about 60 or 70 seats that we can sell when we get them all together. And, we got a new moon coming on, and we got an astrologist here who's going to go out and take us out for a couple hours out on the lake. And when we broadcast that in-house on our text messaging, I mean,
Yeah.
I am shocked every time that thing is full within,
Wow.
2 hours. It's almost full up. So there are some things we can do, but the Wi-Fi challenges are real. But
Yeah, I can
typically
imagine.
we do communicate with our guests through that medium, and it's been really effective for us, I think. So,
We do
That's
have
really neat.
Wi-Fi at the lodge. It's gotten better too. So thanks to
Yeah.
yeah.
Starlink. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun. How long have you been doing the text messaging?
Let's see. We started that when 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, maybe five
Maybe.
years.
Yeah, maybe
We
five
used a
years.
service called Whistle for a while, and then we switched over. Now it's built in within our reservation software.
Fusion system.
Yeah,
That's
so
really
Yeah,
neat.
and
mhm.
it's been crucial and really adds a nice layer of marketing that's really targeted and
Yeah.
personal. So
No, I can imagine that that's huge, because if you have something like that that maybe is not super far out or planned very far in advance, so didn't have the chance to talk about it when they were booking their reservation, but this great opportunity comes up. That's a really smart way to get out news quickly to everyone that's there with you. That's very cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just switching gears a little bit and talking about the future vision of Redfish Lake Lodge. So what is the vision for Redfish Lake Lodge in the next decade? Are there any new projects or initiatives you're excited about? And we'd love to just hear a little bit more about where you both see Redfish Lake Lodge going.
Yeah, you bet. That's great. It's interesting. We just barely the permit that we have on Redfish is a 30-year permit, and it would have expired in 2028. But we just had it renewed. We just got it renewed last year, and that was a lengthy process. But that helps you open up your vision a little bit when you've got your
Yeah,
permit in place, and it's wonderful. And on the other hand, there are a lot of restrictions just because of where we are, and
yeah,
I mean, we've got back 10 years ago, we got approval for a brand new general store, and we had some beautiful lodging rooms on top of that. We've still got that approved, so that could we're kind of looking at that over the next 10 years. It's a delicate process, and there's a lot of moving parts on that.
yeah,
We have a very thriving wedding business there where
yeah,
every weekend we've got a wedding of some kind going on, and we've looked at getting a new. Uh, right now, we just have a wedding tent that's set up most of the
yeah,
summer where we take care of all those special events like weddings, and we're looking to maybe get a facility that would help us handle that a little bit better.
yeah,
I mean, it's just things like that. But I mean,
yeah,
I think our vision is to continue to improve our facilities and our service, and just keep
yeah,
making this, an outstanding Idaho adventure. I mean,
yeah,
and Austin's been incredible at really making sure that our marketing matches the experience as much as possible. And it's not easy
yeah,
because we have that really busy summer months, and then we have that really beautiful September, early, June that
yeah,
is the quiet. And so you try to be true to that message.
yeah.
But Austin, I don't
Oh,
know if you'd
that's
add
amazing.
things. But
yeah, no, I mean, maybe just speaking to that a little bit, a couple of years ago, I took a couple courses with Cornell Hospitality School online, and it really helped me think about what our brand promise is as a company. And
Yeah,
we kind of landed on, that our brand promise is that we're a tradition of Idaho hospitality and rustic adventure. And so, looking ahead, how do we keep that? How do we keep our tradition of Idaho
yeah,
hospitality and still offer rustic adventure to all of our guests, those that come up there? And we're constantly working with the Forest Service to plan strategies that will, improve our parking situation and
yeah,
logistical things like that. And so that'll be, in the next 10 years, hopefully we'll be able to get some of those things solved a little bit better and have some solutions that will allow easier access and better access for guests and help us be better stewards and everything as well. So
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's just, I think what's really inspiring is just the commitment to not only the location that you're at, but the history and the legacy of Redfish Lake Lodge, and just wanting to maintain that. And I think a lot of people would probably come in and just say, all right, how can I get more rooms? That's where I'm making my money. How do I get more turnover? What can we do? What can we do? But to have such a nice balance to where you're really focused on preserving that authentic stay, and what these families that have been coming for generations, that they still have something that feels very similar, just updated, is really neat. I think that I commend you. I think that that's very impressive, and something that I think that's what clearly people keep coming back for because of what you've created. So it's, I'm sure, a very special experience.
I
Yeah,
think
thank you.
brands struggle with that. I think a lot of other
Yeah.
hotels and lodges and resorts, they're tempted by the tools and stuff that come out, and sometimes they adopt them, and sometimes it doesn't resonate with the guests, or doesn't resonate with who the property is. And I love that you guys are remaining true to that. You easily could have Wi-Fi and these new things, but it's like almost goes against your promise, right? You want to keep this kind of rustic, authentic experience that's made the place so special. I love that you guys are trying to sustain that and you're remaining true to yourselves. I think a lot of brands struggle with that, and it's hard to kind of remain grounded in who you are. But in my experience and Rachel's experience, being true to who you are and kind of having that promise and that vision as a brand is what makes you successful. But I think a lot of brands struggle to understand and identify what that is. And then you see them kind of go all over the place, and there's that lack of consistency. Austin, you talked about how it's so important for you guys is to uphold that, but it can be a challenge to do. So, I mean, it's amazing you guys have been able to maintain this level of success and consistency over the years. You've got this really loyal following. It's just absolutely incredible to see.
Well,
really
thank
is,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. You know, Derek, as you were speaking, you know, we have about 90 employees, and if I just looked at the history of our employees, the first year we had about 65, strong drug culture, you know, just kids who were floating from winter ski bums to summer resort, and you know,
Right.
and it took us probably 10 years to, you know, I used to go out to college campuses recruiting and hitting it hard, and I haven't been to a college campus in 15 years. We just now have built these. I mention that only because I think, you know, it's one thing to market to the outside and have your brand, but if you're not taking care of your employees internally and genuinely caring about them so that they in turn treat the guest how you expect a guest to be treated, it doesn't work. You know, and so, you know, this year, and I say this humbly, frankly, because it's just been the area and everything that's caused this, but like this year, I have 61 employees returning from last year, and you know, in the seasonal world, that's not easy.
That's rare.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy, and it speaks to really just, I mean, and you know, every year I have 2 or 3 marriages come out of our staff, and you know, you get up there and you're kind of in, and 3 of them have been my children, by the way, but you get up there in this really organic, natural setting where you get to know people outside of like other social influences, and so it's just fun. I mean, we have an in-house uh, phrase or an acronym that is called WEAR. It's WEAR, and so like you'll notice on all of our, you know, employee crew shirts or whatever, they have WAR in there, and it stands for warm, energetic, adventurous, and real. And so it's just the
Love it.
internal side of messaging to them. This is, you know, this is our culture. This is who we are, and we're not
Yeah.
perfect at it. And there's always issues and problems, but generally speaking, blending that back end with that Idaho rustic adventure, you know, Idaho hospitality on, you know, if you blend those two, that's kind of been a little recipe for some of our success. And again, you know, we make mistakes and we're constantly trying to tweak it and figure out how we can do it better, but it's an intentional effort. So
Yeah.
but,
I think that's another area where it can be really challenging for companies and brands to focus on that. And it's so crucial. And so I love that you brought that up. And I think with the higher turnover rates, especially in hospitality, I think they're far, far more, that turnover rate in hospitality is much higher than you would probably see in other fields. And to have employees that many return year after year and just feel a sense of pride for working there, but also that they're valued, it's not easy to create an environment like that, especially with so many other things going on. So the fact that you take such a focus on that and really treating your team how you want them to treat your guests that's amazing. That's really
yeah.
cool.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for sharing insights and your stories with us. We learned a lot, and it was great to just hear more about the success of Redfish Lake Lodge and where you see it going in the future. So for listeners who are inspired to visit or learn more, where can they find more information about Redfish Lake Lodge? Or I guess I should say, where can they sign up for the email list so they know exactly when they can book their stay?
Yeah, awesome. Just the obvious and easy answer, which is redfishlake.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, all those things. We're there and excited to engage in a dialogue with you. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much again. This was great, and we loved being able to speak with you more.